Hi there, Harvest here from DeiTerraFarms, and welcome to On the Road with Kirk and Harvest. This segment is for us to share our heart to you with various topics that we have swirling around in our heads, and it is also time for us to just kind of reflect and maybe explain things such as why we're doing this and how we're doing this and what's important to us. So today's segment, why we decided to take a road trip in the first place. What was our purpose for selling our house, leaving everybody in Oregon and hitting the road for 3 months and look for a new place to live. As a viewer, you might wonder what the heck our family was thinking when we decided to uproot our family. We have 7 kids, an extra kid, and my mom. So what makes our family decide that we're going to basically sell everything, hop in a car, and leave everything behind? We have extended family, we have longtime friends, our house was going to be our forever home. So why did we leave all that? Well, we have 3 kind of our top reasons that we're going to share with you on why we decided to do that. And those reasons are, number 1, cost of living, number 2, political climate, and number 3, land and what we wanted to grow. And so we're going to get into those 3 reasons and share with you kind of in depth those whys, and then kind of wrap up at the end for you. Tell us about your reason why with regards to it being a very expensive state to live in, Oregon being a very expensive state.
Yeah, so one of our 3 reasons why we moved was, financially, just wanted something that was a little bit lower cost of living. But, when you are in the forest, you can't see the trees sometimes until you realize what else is out there. And, we've just been kind of plunking away for the last 7 years at this house, and we've, in Oregon. And we really enjoyed it. It was definitely at the top of our budget. It was top of our finance. And so it was a stretch. It was a stretch home, but it fit us, and it was really great. But we got used to it so much that we realized, or that we didn't realize that there were other options, and that maybe every single dollar I make didn't need to be going to our house and just cost of living and bills and all that with very little left over. I made a fairly decent salary, but for the amount of things that we could buy with our dollars, it just got to the point where it just didn't go as far as what we thought it should go. And so as we started looking around, doing some research, and Harvest's mom actually did a ton of research on this, and between Harvest and her mom, between the 2 of them, we realized, well, guess what? Oregon is the 4th most expensive state in the country to live in. So all of a sudden, a whole bunch of bells and whistles started to go off. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. We already knew that our property taxes were high simply because of the school district that we were in. And we had 2.5 acres, so some of that made sense. But in addition to that, just the amount of money that we're paying for, the mortgage itself, food, gas, insurance, utilities. You add all that together, and man, it's a huge nut to crack. And so, so we started looking around at some other options. And once we saw the type of properties that we could buy in other states, states that we actually wanted to live in, it became pretty clear that cost of living was really a pretty good reason to start looking somewhere else. So yeah, that's really kind of the background for why cost of living is a number one, or it's one of the top three.
And I think for me, we had started this out as a joke, in that we just kind of joked around, well, we could live somewhere else, we could live in Arkansas. And that ended up, it was just a joke until I, on a whim one day went on to Zillow, I think it was, and looked up land and found a piece of property. I think it was 40 acres for $10,000. And I think the light bulb went on for me. I said, oh, maybe we really should move. So I think that really ties into the next point, and actually we're skipping a point because I said them out of order in the beginning, but the next point, which being the fact that we wanted to be on land that we could grow and cultivate ourselves. And so what does that mean to you, sweetie?
Well, again, looking at the property that we had in Oregon, that was, just over 2.5 acres, beautiful land. We got what we wanted out of that house, at least initially, which was just to have a little bit of distance from neighbors. When we first bought the house, it's not like we didn't want to be by anybody. We didn't want to be in their backyard. So we definitely got that part of it, and we had an amazing neighborhood, great neighbors. So that part was really good. But over the years, we began to realize, we'd really love to have, a good sized garden for us, and maybe some other people too. Maybe not just a little, tomato plant in the corner. We want some bigger garden area. And the house that we had, the property couldn't really accommodate that for a couple reasons. Number one, it was very forested, big, beautiful trees there. Big old Douglas firs, and cedar. We had alder, and just a lot of beautiful forest area. But that makes it really difficult when it comes to getting the proper amount of sunlight to grow what you're looking to grow. And in addition to that, it was very few flat areas. It was fairly sloped. So even the areas that we could grow on, it was difficult to access with wheelbarrows and things like that, because you had to walk up hills, and it was just not as convenient and conducive to growing as we would have liked. So, and then the other areas that were a little bit more flat, like I said, they're full of trees, and so it would have been a huge cost to clear land and get it ready for, actually cultivating. Yeah, so that was probably, as far as land goes, that was what we had to work with. And so that really gave us a good idea of what we're looking for. We'd still like to have some trees. We don't want to be out on this, massive plain with no protection from sun or wind or anything. But we do want a fair amount of flat area that's easy to access, that's good soil, and easier to grow, better sunlight and things like that. So, and of course, we still want space from neighbors. We still don't want to be in somebody's backyard, and we do want to be, more rural than we were, partly because we don't want to be, looking at developments next to us in the next few years. We want to be far enough outside of a kind of a major metropolis area so that we're not looking at a high-rise apartment from some builder, going in, 12 months after we move there. So we're trying to look for that type of property.
Yeah, for me, we were not able to have livestock of any kind where we were, not because of zoning. We had permission to have it. We just couldn't because the land itself would not have allowed. We could have had goats, and that was it. For us to have what we wanted garden-wise and animal-wise, it just wasn't possible. And we really, really, truly tried to make it work. All right, I think this is one of the biggest points for us, in that this was the driving factor. This is what released us to go. This is what gave us permission and all that, which was COVID and what ended up happening to the area that we lived in. And Kirk, why don't you expand a little bit on that?
So there are a couple of things kind of combined, and it's almost difficult to know where to start. But even before COVID, just kind of politically, the climate in the area that we were living in started to turn south. But
I think it just turned left.
It turned left, yeah. It really turned left, and I don't want to make any enemies here, but I'm just going to be real frank. The Democratic leadership of Oregon basically destroyed that state, and it's really sad because before COVID and even before, like a year before that, I could kind of take or leave politics. It wasn't that big of a deal to me, as long as I can kind of do what I want to do. It wasn't that big of a deal. Yes, we've always been voters. We've always tried to promote and encourage and support those things that we believe in, because ultimately who we vote for matters, and it does impact your life. But unless you're confronted with something that is taken away from you, you don't really think about it that much. And so with the advent of COVID, what we really saw was the power that leadership in place had over our ability to have the freedom that we really wanted. And so that realization was rather alarming to me, how much power our local governments had. And so we had to start taking a look at, when we're looking for another property, or the reasons that we could have to move, we want a place where we can feel more at peace and more in line with beliefs from a political standpoint. And so that's kind of why we're looking. We're looking for a red state. We're not looking to move in a blue state. Ultimately, I don't know if that will be a do or die situation for us, but it certainly is. It certainly is a reason. So we understand politics come and go. I mean, there's very little, honestly, that we have control over in that regard. You put your best foot forward, and you just kind of hope for the best. But it definitely has been a driving factor. So we just want to make sure that where we're at, we have really the freedoms to enjoy that we hold dear and hold true, and without having to feel like we're boxed into some kind of a corner.
So along those lines, we had a very strong business that was very well established in the community. Both of us were very deep in the community. We had our fingers in a lot of different things. Chamber of Commerce, and Kirk was involved in a political action committee, several boards, and so for us, even the thought of leaving any time before COVID hit would have been impossible. We had, which I think you should, if you're going to live in a community, if you're going to believe in a community, if you're going to complain about a community, you should be deeply involved in it so that you have something to complain about. I really believe that you have nothing to say about where your life is if you are not deeply involved in it, because it's just like complaining about who's in office. If you didn't vote at all, you shouldn't complain. Anyway, we were deeply involved in our community. We saw the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we were prepared to be there to do our part and, work the soil, so to speak. So when COVID shut our business down, and a lot of the things that we were involved in really shut down, we took the time to really evaluate, when we open back up, is this some place that we really want our family, our business, our lives to be? And the answer was no. We didn't want that. COVID and, kind of this good and bad situation, because it really gave us permission to make that choice, which we wouldn't have had before. We would not have had the opportunity to walk away from the community that we were so deeply involved in. When our business stopped, we decided, well, our business can be anywhere, and our lives can certainly be anywhere. So let's take it somewhere else where we feel like our impact can be made.
So I guess what we want to leave you with is, I know we have our reasons of why we moved, and honestly, the priority of those can kind of change positions as we learn more about this amazing country that we live in, and as our experience of different areas, reveals maybe more reasons, and maybe it enhances other reasons. Really, this is about our family. It's about our family. It's what is important to us. We want to make sure that Harvest and I, as a couple, that we're leaving a legacy for our kids. We want to teach them to be amazing people, and to enjoy life, and to realize that the only limits that you have in life are the limits that you place on yourself or allow yourself to be placed in. Yes, we believe that there is a time and a season for everything, and God may have you in a certain area where you don't like it and you don't understand what's going on. I understand that those times exist, but there are other times where the sky is the limit. And I believe ultimately it's our choice. It's our destiny. It's up to us to decide what we want to do with our lives, where we want to be. And we were in a situation where we began to realize that it wasn't where we wanted to be. There was something else out there for us. And so taking the step of faith is what we were doing. We kind of leaped out into the unknown. To have a family as large as we do, basically leaving everything behind, going out to the unknown. There's not really a manual how to do that, but that's okay. We realized that we were doing what we believe is the right thing to do. We had lots of green lights, open doors. We decided it's time for us to just step through and do it. So that's what we're doing, and what happens remains to be seen, but we are super excited for this journey. And if nothing else, we hope that we've encouraged you in our journey just to realize, if you want to go do something, go do it. Don't let yourself be limited by either beliefs or other people's expectations on you. And it's okay to break free from that, and you will find a lot of freedom in that. So anyways, hope that's encouraging, part of our story, and thanks again for being on this journey with us, and we look forward to amazing things.
We are excited because we have next week's On the Road with Kirk and Harvest all planned out. We're going to talk about manners and how we're teaching our children manners as we travel through the South. We're learning all kinds of new manners, and how does that apply as well. So we thought we'd talk about that. So stay tuned next week, and we hope you enjoyed today. Thank you so much. Blessings to everybody. See you later. Bye.